for the uploading of the results on the INEC portal when Section 60 of the Electoral Act is clear about who has the power to do so at the polling unit. The State Collation officer has at Sinai State was only with a difference of less than 7,000 votes. On the other hand, the APC maintains a comfortable lead of over 30,000 and 150,000 in nearby Jigawa and Zamfara states, respectively. The bad news for PDP however, is its dismal performance in Kano. The APC is imagined with over 600,000 votes difference ahead of the PDP. In the North Central, the APC has decimated all parties to a comfortable majority votes in Kwara, Kogi, and Niger. Our impressive show in Benue, FCT, and Plateau is also pushing PDP into third position in those places. Taken together, we are very upbeat, as the numbers do not lie. We call on the opposition to stop the macabre dance of a dying horse and embrace defeat honorably. There can still be honor in defeat. This is democracy at play, and everybody in this country knows that our own candidate, our presidential candidate, is a committed Democrat who has a track record and antecedents in deepening democracy, fighting for democracy, nurturing democracy, and therefore is the only avatar of democracy in this game. We once again thank Nigerians for subscribing to our message of renewed hope and ask our supporters to remain calm and hopeful as we will ensure that their votes are not manipulated.
Challenge them. I want to challenge PDP. Publish results from ECSs that your agents took pictures of. And use that to challenge results declared by INEC at the National Collation Center. It's very simple. So I want you to see through the smoke of what they are doing. I hope you understand me. Yeah. Let INEC tell us, let PDP tell us, in a particular state, show us all your Form ECHAs, show us all the result sheets entered at the ward level, and tell the world which discrepancy did you see with the ones announced at the National Collation Center. So, gentlemen, I want to say at the end of the day that what is happening in the PDP and all the drama you see from those characters at the National Collation Center is nothing but storm in a teacup. There's no substance in what they are saying and doing. Thank you.
Thank you. No, wait. Let me say a few things. Thank you.
It's on. It's on.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just add to what Dele has said and what my brother Festus has said. And I just want to say a couple of things very quickly. First of all, it's very clear that the words of Dino Melaye and his behavior today like Shakespeare, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying absolutely nothing. No matter what Pastor Paul Eneche, Dino Melai, and all the rest of them say, Dele Momodu, all the rest of them, no matter what they say or do, particularly the Obedience, who have intimidated and threatened our voters, beaten our voters in some parts, particularly in the East, beaten our voters and our supporters. I have all the evidence here on my phone. Threatened them, particularly the women. There's nothing they haven't been subjected to. The minute that result is announced, we will not be intimidated. We will defend our votes. We will protect this mandate. And those that have the idea of a June 12th annulment by creating crisis because they didn't win, they should perish the thought. It will not happen under this watch, by God's grace. Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Gideon Rutusi, I work for the Nation. This morning, Lagos result was released, and Labour Party had a day in Lagos. What is the position of PCC as well as the position of your principal?
Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, we all saw what emerged in Lagos, the results that came out today. The Labour Party had a very slight lead, but a lead all the same, you know. And honestly, we have always said this, and I did say it a few moments ago, that our candidate is the avatar of democracy in this season, in this country today. He has fought strenuously to enthrone this democracy. He has acted in government to deepen this democracy. And he has demonstrated his commitment unalloyed, unavowed to democracy. So he's taking it in his stride to show you that these are not Democrats. And I repeat, because they never took part in the democratic struggle, they never acted in deepening and sustaining this democracy, it is easy for them to want to scuttle it. But those of us who are part and parcel of the democratic struggle, we knew what we went through. Our principal went through the crucibles, harassment, oppression, suppression, and the whole works to get this democracy in place. So we are prepared to nurture. If anything, any lesson is to be drawn from the Lagos results today, it is that when Asiwaju complained about the process, because the process has been demonstrably fair and just, as exemplified by the results in Lagos, which we are not even contesting now. We are taking it in our strides as Democrats, but it is a testimony to the freeness and fairness of this process. So let nobody come and complain when we are declared the whole rigged. If we did not rig them out in Lagos, we are about to rig them out anywhere else. So it is established and verified by what has happened in Lagos today. Thank you. Sorry, there's somebody.
Regards to section
60,
62 and apparently 64 of INEC engaged to NCC, and I'm sure that was right, correct electoral. So I want to find out from you, because I was at the National Collation Center yesterday, and behind the chairman was a projection of results that were also being presented by the various records.
All right, we're currently live from Abuja at a press briefing by the APC Presidential Campaign Council. We've heard from Dele Alake, who is a media advisor to the Presidential Campaign Council, who implored the police to immediately restrain Dino Melaye, Dele Momodu, and Pastor Enechi for what he is calling alleged incitement of violence. Dina Malaya via social media, Dele Momodu via television, and Pastor Enechi via the pulpit. He accused both the Labour Party and the PDP.
And to those who did that, I was just wondering, if you say you build a state, I don't think you should coerce people to vote for you to continue leading that state. If you say you are the father of Lagos, I don't think you need to coerce anybody for you to remain, on state. Unfortunately, I've not heard the state government coming out to condemn this violent attack on Lagosians yesterday. But like I said, their days are numbered. Anything they like, let them do. We're going to dislodge them.
And we would like to seize this opportunity to thank everyone that has contributed to this segment, including our esteemed analysts and commentators, correspondents in the field, in-studio producers, and of course, our wonderful followers all over the world. I'm Cynthia Are. Have a good day.
I've been effective in selling my program. I've worked more than any other politician in this country to show the capacity and what is necessary.
We must vote. You can see my vote saying we must have to vote. So we are waiting here. Whether it's in the night, tomorrow we want to vote. It's our right. We have to vote.
It is very difficult to determine by mere appearance who is a minor or not. Most of the ones you are seeing, maybe they are genetic, their growth rate might be impaired. All those that you see voting, they are those that have been approved by INEC, and I cannot change it.
We are confident in what we do, and we thank God for the very peaceful elections. I must truly say thank you to INEC for what we see at the moment, and we say thank you to Mr. President for ensuring that there is fairness in this election.
I expect that this is a more credible process, than previous ones, and I think it is good that we are improving with every election cycle.
That's a fraud. For someone to transfer to a place he or she is not living, it's a fraud.
They carried our box, they carried my machine, and immediately the police came. The boxes they could recover, they recovered it.
I'm confident because we made adequate preparations to ensure that every polling unit has at least 5 security personnel there.
Politicians are supposed to be disciplined members of society. So we must conduct our affairs very credibly, that both our supporters, our relatives and so on should know that politics is a clean business.
We have never been the kind of people that will incite anything besides peace.
This is I dropped a bullet. This is my bullet. Somebody gave order for them to shoot at us. I tell you to dodge a bullet. Look at my leg with the bullet I dodged. Look at what happened. Look what happened. Look what happened. This is what I came with.
Only worry was that the election here started after 11. And it's rightly pointed out, we have thousands of people there. And not only that, immediately I finished voting, the machine went bad. And now they are struggling to repair it.
We have worked for INEC for at least 3 days, and INEC have agreed to give us ballot paper and boxes and other devices like beavers to work with it. And why you refuse to pay us our feeding allowances and our transport allowances? We use our leg with ballot paper and beavers to our polling unit.
That what unites us surpasses whatever that divides us. What is important for us as a people, irrespective of differences in political affiliations, religious persuasions, tribal or sectional background, is after the election is all undone.
Army is here, civil defense is here, DSS is here, police is here. We only have our BBC. We want to vote.
We have stayed for 3 days without sleeping and without eating. How election will be conducted successfully?
Nigerians, the 2023 Nigeria General Elections is here. Ensure that you have your PVC and locate your polling unit as you set out to vote. At your polling unit, queue and present your PVC for accreditation by INEC. On receipt of the ballot paper, vote discreetly for the candidate of your choice. Remember, there are standards of behavior required of voters on election day, and violators may be arrested. No buying and selling of votes, no intimidation or coercion of voters, no canvassing for votes, shouting of party slogans, or display of party symbols at polling units. Nigerians, the time has come to exercise your franchise. Turn out in full and cast your vote for the candidate of your choice. This message is brought to you by Policy and Legal Advocacy Centre, PLAC, with support from the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
My name is Abdurrashid Bawa, the Executive Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I want to use this medium to urge all Nigerians to eschew all manner of electoral fraud, either through vote buying, vote selling, or fraudulent manipulations of electoral processes. I'm fully persuaded that we can run our electioneering processes devoid of any form of criminality. Let us all be committed to a free, fair, and credible dealings in the exercise of our democratic rights. Thank you.
Report any electoral fraud to the following numbers. You can also send any relevant information to info@efcc.gov.ng or to all our social media platforms at official EFCC. Also, use the EFCC mobile app, the Eagle Eye, to report. Your vote is your power. Protect it.
And Arise analyst Frank Tietia is with us in our Abuja studio to discuss the conduct of the elections so far and where the pendulum is likely to swing eventfully. Good afternoon and welcome to the show, Frank. I'm sure you were busy yesterday. We saw you covering a lot and giving a lot of analysis, and we're asking for some more this afternoon. So really briefly, your assessment of these elections and the way INEC has allowed it to unfold. It has been quite a lot of not pleasant commentary. It's, you know, we're all waiting in limbo to see what happens next. Can you give us your own assessment of how the elections have been conducted in the last few days?
Thank you very much, and my pleasure. Well, you know, the elections had an initial good start. It was filled with a lot of hopes, and we saw those visuals coming in of the BVAS machine working seamlessly, and then the shift came, the turn into the storm
where INEC didn't eventually prove that it had everything under its control. Its ad hoc staff and permanent staff started carrying on forms of dereliction of duty, for which I believe strongly that a number of them should actually be punished at the end of the day. They didn't show up, and if they showed up at the polling venue, they did so late, and all of those are outlined as offenses under the Electoral Act. And INEC has been battling, it's been involved in trying to redeem its image because it has been receiving bashing from both local and international election observers. Civil society situation rooms concluded that its failure to make available electoral materials amounted to voter suppression and almost resembled one form of collusion or the other. Lagos was the epicenter of INEC's failure at that time. INEC struggled so hard against trying to put up an explanation why the much talked about application of technology, beavers, and the speedy uploading of results to its result viewing portal wasn't working at all. It was practically shut down. INEC battled to a point where it could restore it, and we saw trickles of results being posted there, even though they were done in so poorly, where it is expected, or it was expected, that results should have been uploaded. We saw pictures of core members being uploaded in such a manner that was quite embarrassing. What is more important is that INEC seems to be having his hands back on control of the elections. Collations have been going. Results coming out from the various centers, whether the local government collation center or the state collation centers, have been quite been steady and consistent to the extent that tensions are dying down. What is very important at this time is that Nigeria is having an election, the world is watching, and some African countries are actually here in Abuja trying to learn from the Nigerian experience, because they appreciate the complexity of the Nigerian state, the multiplicity of ethnic groups, and the fact that the tensions are high. The competition for political power is next to nothing in the whole world when it comes to Nigeria. So they came to learn how Nigeria would manage this election, and I'm sure they have quite a lot to learn. In the long run, the application of technology appears to be paying off for Nigeria now, because we didn't expect that the results will even come this quickly. To think that as we speak, we're just expecting about over 100,000 polling units results to ensure that the whole counting collation process will now be over. So with about nearly 60,000 polling units results coming in, we're seeing a direction of the polls already, and the Nigerians are largely satisfied as this is coming in, because, like I've always maintained, there is no expectation of a perfect process, but a process that is, conducted in such a manner that even losers will have confidence that they lost gracefully, not because of the dereliction or the failure or the irresponsibility of the election managers in the institution of INEC. So that's what we're working to see now. Right now, parties are apprehensive. There are some who have even confidently, mistakenly, brazenly, congratulated themselves, called the election for themselves, but results coming in seem to be changing. Lagos is teaching a lot of political lessons to the politicians as we speak. It shows that there is a shift, that there's a possibility that issues can actually drive campaigns, and that Lagos, being a coalescence of tribe and tolerance, can actually be an example where it will happen that a candidate that is indeed popular can transcend the barriers of tribe and religion. And that's what the Lagos result is showing. And we're also seeing the magnanimity of the residents of Lagos, I don't want to say the aboriginals of Lagos, who are taking it kindly, even even though there are reports of anger and betrayals, but we are confident that with the call from the APC quarters that for calm, there is expected to be less reports of violence in the long run. There is a significant improvement in this election so far compared to the 2019 elections, especially not because of technology alone, but the shift from a sort of bullion van politics, in quote, where money, the application of money in trying to unduly influence the choice of voters, that process has been actually reduced very much this time around. So even though there are complaints, several complaints, especially with regards to persons who believe that they have been deliberately disenfranchised, INEC has a primary principal, constitutional and statutory responsibility not to allow any Nigerian to believe that he has been deliberately disenfranchised. So it's a very progressive thing to think that INEC has considered many of those reports from Bielsa that they were not giving voting materials, and INEC officials didn't show up at all. To the extent, INEC now has ordered postponement of those elections. Some of them were actually held on Sunday. Until those elections are actually held, there probably will not be a return in those states at all. So by and large, and in conclusion, for me, walking around the situation rooms in Abuja, in the Trascorp Hilton and in the Nikon Luxury, together with talking with international journalists and observers, the election so far has recorded significant improvement, and it's good for our democracy.
All right, significant improvement, you say. Some would think otherwise, Frank, and Arise just brought us the press conference from the APC's PCC, and Dele Alake, Festus Kemiamo, and not forgetting quite a lot of others actually came and defended INEC, some would say, and also gave them a pass mark. But one sticking issue that they actually brought to the fore was what Dino Melaye raised in the day, talking about uploading of results into the IREV. And some have said that the PDP are claiming that INEC has dropped the ball. The APC are insisting INEC are on track and they are doing the right thing. Constitutionally, that first of all, the Constitution must take preeminence before you talk about the Electoral Act and guidelines from INEC. Now, talk to us, try to untangle this for us. As it stands right now, would you think is actually right, or which position is actually the correct position? Is it that of the PDP or the APC as we speak?
You know, the Constitution does not give details. It doesn't talk about the details of processes involved in the election. It delegates that to the National Assembly to make a law to regulate a commission that is supposed to manage election, and that is the Independent National Electoral Commission. To that extent, there is a robust law that has been enacted which is guiding this election, which is the Electoral Act of 2022. In that act, particularly if you look at the sections regulating the conduct of election, there is also no express mention of when it comes to uploading results for electronically. There was not such an express mention of that. Yet, the Electoral Act under Section 149 and Section 150 all give INEC the powers, the extended delegated powers to make rules, regulation, and guidelines to guide the process of election. INEC enjoys extreme application of discretion in the way it manages this election. Now, what is expected under the provisions of the Electoral Act is that there will be collations at the various collation points, whether the local government's collation center or the state collation centers, and according to the guidelines, which I agree to an argument, and I think we shouldn't defer to the fact that who is right and who is wrong. We should hold on to common standards that are applicable to all the players, including INEC and the political parties. What is expected is that there's a form of communication of the result sheets, the actual fiscal result sheets to INEC. Now, if the guidelines provide for a confidence-building measure that the same Beavers machine that is used for accreditation, that has the possibility of taking pictures and then uploading What is uploading and then send it to the central server? What is important by law is that whatever the figures are that are transmitted, whatever is contained in the document, in the result sheet, must correspond with each other. Anytime there is a discrepancy, INEC, again under section 165, is called upon to review the process, to review the decision with regards to balloting, with regards to polling, and then ultimately make a declaration. It doesn't end there. It proceeds in the expectation that giving freedom to any of the candidates or any of the political parties to protest. But by section 65 expressly mentions that the form of protest should be approaching the courts and not any form of resorting to underhand tactic or playing to the gallery. I don't want to take any position here, but I believe very strongly that if there was, as INEC had put in its guidelines, in its regulation, for the election to be, for the result sheet to be snapped, to be photographed by the BVAS machine and ultimately transmitted, it is simply a confidence-building measure which should increase the transparency of the election and not necessarily a mandatory thing to be done. What is important is that there is an accreditation process, there is polling, the votes are counted, they are recorded, and the actual result sheets are transmitted to the Central Collation Center, which is the International Conference Center right now, which is the National Collation Center chaired by the supposedly returning officer, who is the INEC chairman.
Now, Mr. Tete, a number of areas saw the outbreak of electoral violence and ballot snatching, including here in Lagos. So I'd like to know what this says about the level of preparedness of our security forces. Of course, you'll recall all the show of force that we witnessed before the election and all the tough talk from security agencies. What does that say about their level of preparedness? And then how do we prevent a repeat of such violence during the governorship election? We already have some party officials warning civil servants who do not deliver their polling units to the governor of Lagos State not to report to work on Monday. How do we curb electoral violence going forward?
Electoral violence and electoral intimidation, inducement, these are things that will always plague our elections. But I've witnessed a number of elections, and in theory, studied quite a number of elections from 1964 through 1979, 1983 to the present elections, and then the famous 1993 elections. What I can tell you, in comparison with the 2019 election, is that there is a measure of reduction of violence. I saw the elections in the wake of return to democracy in 1999. It wasn't 1998, 1999. They were also ridden with a lot of violence and abuse of money. This time around, we expected more. The International Crisis Group expected the worst of times in 2015. It did happen. President Goodluck Jonathan averted that with that phone call. But what we have experienced now is that we have it on record that in several places, policemen were just idling away without much work to do, except in places where tempers were rising as a result of the dereliction of INEC officials. But in Lagos and some other places where there were clear-cut invasion of polling areas, polling units by gunmen, by perpetrators of violence, we also saw that there was no appropriate response from the security agencies. That is a minus. Let me tell you this. If we want to curb violence in the coming election, I'm talking about in the governorship elections in March, it depends a whole lot on INEC and its officials. And then INEC must first of all realize this before I address that particular issue, that its failure in 2019 to punish many of his staff that actually disrupted the elections, that created room for violence and protestations, we actually contributed again to the worst situation we had in Lagos. That's why, for example, when it was time for INEC officials to show up for the elections, they were not there. The ones who came did not bring electoral materials. However, what is important is this. You know, we have records, we have reports of police actually taking down a particular party stalwart for trying to disrupt the counting process. In fact, lethal weapon was used, and the report, even though it's not widely confirmed, was that he was shot dead. That's a response from the police authorities with regards to trying to secure the ballot. Is that important? However, what the panacea to a situation where we would not resort too much of securitization of sort of policing or militarization of our elections as it once was, is for INEC to simply do a good job. So INEC should take a whole lot of the blame. It can cure this, it can prevent this if it gives a list of its officials that contributed to the negligence, to the failures that occurred in Lagos and Bayelsa and other places. Let me tell you, particularly, INEC requires, under Section 120, the Section 120 of the Electoral Act, INEC requires an explanation from any of its officers where there are cases of late coming. It's not enough that in cases where you don't show up at all, INEC needs to publish the names of those officials who ought to be on those polling units that didn't show up. And the law, particularly in Section 120, subsection 2 and 3, require from these officials to give written explanations to INEC why they were not there. And for the ones that came late, they are required by law to give explanations. It doesn't end there. Whatever explanations they give, they will be further subjected to trial, because they are truncating a very important process that holds the society together when they choose not to come. Let me tell you, there is a particular oath that officials who conduct our elections take, and that they are committed to it with all that they have. When they fail, it amounts to a very serious offense. And I think that 12 months imprisonment is even a light offense, or given an option of fine of mere 500,000 naira, it makes it light. And that's why these persons can choose to say they are not coming. In fact, anybody who knows that he cannot deliver on the responsibility of being an INEC staff or an INEC ad hoc staff should not take it, because if they take it, they have a very crucial responsibility to deliver. In the cases of Lagos, Bayelsa, and some other places, and in fact, every other place where election did not take place at the appropriate time that gave reason for tempers to rise, all those officials must be listed. That is where INEC failed in 2019 by encouraging impunity. It didn't hold anybody accountable for the failures to which INEC is vicariously liable for. So that needs to be addressed so that we won't have a repeat of this kind of derelictions that are leading to tempers rising and then almost spoiling the huge work that the whole world, the international community, INEC, and Nigerian government, and especially the legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari, was about to be destroyed. Hoping that we'll get over it in the next few days, particularly by Wednesday.
And Frank, speaking of this repeat, it seems like it's an unfortunate case of deja vu from the 2019 elections. If you recall, it was tangled up with the Supreme Court. We had issues with the server, so some other technological issues that muddied the waters as to the results. Now it seems like we have the same thing again for this BVAS/IREV situation. And are we even surprised that none of these issues were discussed at the press conference of the INEC chairman yesterday afternoon? My question, I know you don't work for INEC, but let's just troubleshoot here a little bit. Was it the BVAS that failed, or was it INEC that failed by not uploading the results to the IREV portal? Was it INEC that failed, that didn't train some of the on-ground staff in order to know how to upload the results to the IREV portal? What could have gone wrong in order for this technological green light that we were supposed to see in these elections, which were
which were supposed to allow everything be instantaneous, a little more free and transparent, it seems like the instant results uploading did not happen. And, you know, this is why we see drag into today and possibly Tuesday and Wednesday. What went wrong? IREV, BVAS, INEC, all these acronyms.
All of the above, as you have listed, contributed to the disruptions and the disappointment that Nigerians experienced with the much touted application of technology to the process, to this electoral process, which we didn't really quite experience. However, I must say that a whole lot of correction has been made to many of that. But I will also point out to you that Section 47 of the Electoral Act, like I said in my earlier outing, does contemplate that there will be failures of technology. In the case of 2019, there wasn't a robust, copious, provision for the application of technology, as we now see expressly mentioned in the 2022 Electoral Act. So let's give it to INEC that now it has been statutorily recognized, but again, the human element kept on failing. I come from my home state of Delta, particularly Ughelli North, for example. The results from Ward 6 were uploaded. But I can tell you, as at yesterday, where to see what happened there, in Ughelli, for example, Ward 6 and the various polling units attached to Ward 6, you had the results sheets uploaded, but they were not decipherable in any way. You couldn't see any figure. And then, in one very embarrassing situation, particularly in that same Ughelli, you saw a situation where the youth corps member uploaded her own picture, and it's still there. You know, just imagine, it shows that training was not well done. Again, there are limitations to which INEC must acknowledge that its staff can actually frustrate its work. Again, the good thing about it is the corrective measure that law applies. Law does not only prescribe standards, it expects that there will be conflicts, it expects that there will be failures, it also expects that there will be sabotage. In that case, it imbues the manager, the electoral manager, with a lot of discretionary powers. And then you must have an atmosphere of free speech, freedom to be able to communicate and make protest and say such and such a thing, it's not working. INEC must have its ears to the ground in its situation room and in its media communication process to ensure that it listens enough to address complaints from these persons. I must agree and acknowledge that it was a fiasco indeed in the middle stage of the electoral process on Saturday, that things were not working. Many machines were not working. The INEC staff were several of them, especially in southern Nigeria, Lagos State and South Nigeria, were just frustrating the process. But INEC got itself back, and then the INEC review process review portal started working. Again, we must look at a situation like this. We are dealing with a large number of registered voters. Unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, the results that are coming in now seem to indicate a measure of voter apathy. So what has gone wrong? Well, I don't want to say that, is it because the vote buying as an incentive has actually been reduced tactically by a supposed policy of the federal government? I don't want to go into that. But I think that a situation where a greater confidence in the process is shored up by the way INEC manages it will be very much helpful.
I want you to hold on to your thoughts. We'll get back to you in a moment. Let's try to press on and let's tell you that the All Progressive Congress presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appealed to residents of Lagos to be calm and avoid any act that can lead to the breakdown of law and order. Tinubu, in a statement on Monday by his campaign council spokesman, Bayo Onanuga, says that the outcome of the election in Lagos State, where the Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi won the state, should not lead to violence. He says the beauty of democracy is that people have a right to vote for their candidate of the choice. According to Tinubu, as a Democrat, he is bound to accept the outcome of any election, whether favorable to him or not. Tinubu expressed serious concern over reports of violence in parts of Lagos State, especially reported attacks on some traders of Igbo origin, and also condemned any form of violence against people of any ethnic group in Lagos State.
Well, the
I'm the National Secretary of the African Action Congress. I'd like to refer us to the Electoral Act 2022 as amended. Section 64, subsection, refer to 64, section 64, subsection 4A and B. With your kind permission, I'll read. It says, a collation officer or returning officer at an election shall collate and announce the result of an election subject to his or her verification and confirmation that A, number of accredited voters stated on the collated results are correct and consistent with the number of accredited voters recorded and transmitted, the key word there is transmitted, directly from polling units under Section 40, subsection 2 of this Act as amended. B, the votes stated on the collated results under Section 60, subsection 4 of the Act as amended. Now, the point is, when I stood up the other time, the point we raised was that any scope that comes here to share and give Nigerians results from their state, you must demand from them. If these results they are uploading or they are giving to us here had been uploaded before presenting to Nigerians. This is a simple thing that we want, so that it is consistent with what the Electoral Act has requested the Commission to do. I don't know if this makes sense. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Emeka Ihedio. Mr. Chairman, I can proudly say that I'm a person of high standing in our society. I've been a legislator for 12 years. I was a presiding officer. Mr. Chairman, I was elected by my people as their governor. Mr. Chairman, I understand the process and procedures. I'm a person who values the integrity of our system. But when there are doubts, it's important we all come up on one page. Sir, the desire of most Nigerians is that this process should be seen as free, fair, and transparent. I have been in contact with several agents of our parties across the country. Now, the fact is that results uploaded from polling units in a number of states are not what is being collated. Now, we've had incidents of hijack, we've had incidents of result writing, we've had incidents of manipulation. It makes sense that we interrogate these processes so that we, at this point, if a result is collated and we accept that those results are okay, then it's good to go. If we do not interrogate this process at this point, then it means that our business here has undermined the process. And Mr. Chairman, I plead with you to appreciate the point we've raised and give some time to look at this so that the integrity is sustained. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for this opportunity. I want to actually refer the Commission because we have so much confidence, we from the political parties, we have so much confidence in your leadership. And we know, as a matter of fact, we've been engaged with a lot of quarterly meetings, we have discussed a lot, and we believe you want to give Nigerians the best. And the greatest thing you can do for us is, at the end of the day, let Nigerians, the votes that Nigerians casted be what will be declared. I am very much aware that Section 65 of the Electoral Act, I know this Commission has powers for review. If there are states, for instance, where there are discrepancies, I know Section 65, subsection C, that has to do with declaration of scores of candidates and the return of a candidate, provided that the Commission shall have the powers within 7 days to review the declaration and return where the Commission determines that the said declaration and return was not made voluntarily or was made contrary to the provisions of the law, regulations, and
already mandated you, because you are also a returning officer in this election. It's just the difference is that they are returning officers from the states and you are returning results for the presidential election. And the provision of Section 60 infractions from the political parties. And that is what we are saying. That we cannot move forward except the law is respected, except the promise you made to Nigerians. I have just done a little research. You have promised Nigerians 68 times that beavers will work. And my brother Barrister Festus Okoye, after I checked using Google machine, I promised Nigeria 118 times that beavers will work. We want to see it work and working by going to the portal to see all these results. It worked in Edo, it worked in Collation, it must work in this presidential election. We cannot proceed with computation or collation of results when we cannot see. The confidence we have in this Electoral Act is the introduction of the electronic transmission of results. If that is not done, then there is no difference between what it and we should not be wasters. We want a categorical response on this issue of uploading results. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Nze Frank White. I represent the PP. Mr. Chairman, last Saturday, Nigerians trooped out in their mass, in millions, because of the confidence that the electronic transmission of results put in them. They came out and, it was so massive that so many of them left what they're supposed to do. Those days of playing football in the streets, we are not seen on Saturday. Mr. Chairman, the integrity of this process will stand undermined if the electronic transmission that my colleagues here have requested is not guaranteed. Thank you very much.
I'm speaking on behalf of a party. I speak for APC. And I would not think, after I've spoken for APC, my colleague should also get up to say he's also speaking for APC. We are not, in my opinion, in a debate. I will also correct the impression when it was said that the political parties are in unison. We are not in unison with, excuse me, Mr. Senator Melaye and Right Honorable, with all respect, kindly let me speak. We are not in unison with them. A lot has been, a lot of law has been procured, preferred, and quoted here, most especially Section 65, which says the Commission shall have the powers, and gone further that a decision of the returning officer under subsection 1 may be reviewed by an an election tribunal. And I think if we are not satisfied, like has been rightly said, the whole world is watching this process. We should let the process run its course. Like has been rightly observed, there were elections in other places, some of which have been contested in the courts. Why is this being made to be different? Let the results be presented. And just to add, that the provision of Section 66 subsection 4 that is now being misrepresented here, and make the results available. If we are not satisfied, we will approach the election tribunal. And that is all we are praying for. Like we said, the whole world is watching us. I appeal, sir, Mr. Chairman, that you proceed and do the needful and exercise the powers conferred on you by both the Constitution and the Electoral Act, and let us have the results so we can take necessary steps as we may deem fit. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, any more?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is Zafanaya Jisan. I've been in the parliament, also make the law and also make the Electoral Act. Like my senior colleague said, Emeka Edoha. The law is there. The act is there. And just like the Section 65 have said, the power is given to the INEC to conduct its election. And election process had been laid down from the polling unit, which all of us went around to vote. And then after they are counted, the beavers were there to know the number of people, the agents were there, now the collation to the ward collection center. Everything was tight. The agents were there to see what all was done at the polling unit. And from there, the process is also there to go to the local government headquarters. This thing we are done right from there. Coming here to talk on this issue. We are contrary to some of the agents that are saying whatever they mean, we should not derail this transition. We should not derail to deceive Nigerians on what is happening. What has come here is the right thing that has been done.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Clement Ojukwu. I represent Labour Party. Sir, this is democracy. And we have spoken on behalf of our people. As you have
promised Nigerians before today that our votes are going to count. In addition to that, you told us, or you told Nigerians, that our result will be transmitted electronically by telling the collation officers from the state to first tell us how these results were transmitted before now. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, please.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my name is Bame Vidieno, the agent for Young Progressives Party, YPP. I don't want to be seen to be taking sides on the side of anybody, but on the side of law. I want to state that this is a fifth level of collation. The first was at the polling unit, then at the ward collation center, the local government collation center, then the state collation center, before coming to this collation center, which is the fifth. And I think if there was not in tandem with what ought to be done, I think that this process should be allowed to go, since we couldn't tackle whatever problems, issues we had at the earlier levels. Then if this process is concluded, we have the election petition tribunals that could handle whatever problems that are being raised here. I think the INEC at this stage now should be allowed to go on with the collation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chairman, can I make a quick remark? Chairman, please.
This is...
No, I know I'm not a politician, and I don't intend to be one. But we all have a stake, and we all have a voice. Let me appeal to our politicians, respected individuals, to please don't also think in the Electoral Act that politicians have a right